In this process, a leaf in creating condition of absorption and creating a condition of repulsion. It creates a magnetic field. This is something which a lot of people don't realize. Nobody has ever understood. How come in the process of trying to extract CO2, the amino acid which we explained before come to sit on the surface of the plant? The same thing happens in your CO2 boxes. You create a condition of magnetic gravitational wind. In this gravitational magnetic wind, it has a dimension. As it goes further, it creates certain decrease in one and certain decrease in the other. Magnetical field strength increases, opens up, gravitational pulls in. So it creates a wind. And in this wind is where the nitrogen mixes with oxygen, carbon, or hydrogen, or any other matter. They come together. They try to stand the wind of magnetic gravitational wind. The magnetic field of the plasma of CO2 inside creates this wind. So it allows what is in the vicinity to get involved in the turbulence. And this allows, it's like you throwing things in a pot and putting a mixer in. They come together. And then they make molecular plasma of the amino acid at a point here where not only the gravitational magnetic field of the CO2 is there, but the gravitational magnetic field of H2O and some sort of salt is available. So it's not a process that the CO2 gets absorbed. It's exactly the same thing as your copper plate. You create a gravitational magnetic field in this environment which gradually grows. And then it's got a catchment influence. And after that catchment influence, the strength of gravitational or magnetical is not strong enough to create a, what you call, mixing of the plasmas. So what you do, once you start creating the plasmatic magnetic maggraph of CO2 here between the two plates, somewhere in the center. Good morning, Italian delegation. We gave out on you. You can go home anytime you like to. Good morning. You solved the problem for me by coming late. Ah, you solved. No problem. Italians always have a way out of it. No problem. Good morning. If I tell you what I realized yesterday about the Italians, you don't want to know. I'm unraveling the culture. It's taken me 2.5 years. In the Sensano, we were isolated. We never saw Italians. Now here, we have to have contact with Italians. Now I start understanding. So, once you created a magnetic and gravitational, magnetic and gravitational is not in a matter state, it's a field state. So the field covers the environment. And that field allows any CO2 or any free C or oxygen to be able to come in the wind of the field to become CO2 that becoming in touch with the water, literally you bring the carbon close, and as the carbon arrives in touch with the water, gets oxidized. There are two ways. One, you create gravitational magnetism of CO2. One, you create, in that process, the gravitational magnetism of carbon. And the same as when you have a copper plate, you create a condition that you release the copper, and instantaneously coming in touch with the water becomes copper oxide in the structure. Two processes happen continuously. And in that process of the link of the carbon with the hydrogen and nitrogen and oxygen due to affinity at the beginning of the establishment of the amino acids base of nitrogen in the upper atmosphere, so it pulls in all the three in, and you create protein. Don't forget, carbon is interconnected. If you heard all the time when I would speak about amino acid, we always say carbon is the connector. Happens in the protein of the neural system. If the carbon changes polarity, your protein changes its polarity, line of communication becomes I don't talk, I talk. Diamond structure, graphite and graphene and nanomaterials. So, in fact, what you have to understand is that you create the condition for absorption or attraction of carbon. Do you know what's the atomic structure of the zinc? What's the zinc number? Thanks God thank Wikipedia. Without Wikipedia nowadays, we will be nowhere. My time, it was Oxford Dictionary years ago, encyclopedia. Pardon? Yeah. Zinc is 65. What is copper? 59. What is carbon? Sometimes. But in the isotope gravitational magnetic field, you don't get a solid CO2 at the bottom. You get some where the field sit. And don't forget, even the zinc has 66 and 64. When the field is about right, you absorb one carbon from the environment. And as carbon enters the water, gets oxidized, you get CO2. And because all the carbons is a characteristic of the carbon in the atmospheric condition of this planet, carbon is an interconnector. It is the line of communication. You have a house, one is a water pipe, and one is an energy supply, and one is a telephone line. In fact, carbon is something between telecom and your water supply and your energy. because it just creates a right. It's a monkey which can wear any kind of suit. It's like what we call the Manaka piece. Have you heard of Manaka piece? Manaka piece is a very little statue, actually pieces, and every day during the summertime in Brussels, they change his suit. One day is Elvis Presley, the next day is the president, and the other day he's a Jack in a Pot. Every day they dress in different color. So he gets the character of that person that day. Go on the internet, called Manaka piece. It's only about this big. Millions of people go and see him. It's the symbol of Belgium. So what happens? This is how you create CO2. Your CO2 does not come that you create condition of the gravity of the CO2. You create condition of the carbon, which in interaction with the water, it gets oxidized. Because it's a nano layer, if you speak about it, but in fact, what happens, oxygen centers itself because it has to be able to control 6 naughty children, which are the electrons. Because these electrons orientate the way they like. The only way you can bring 6 electrons under control is literally putting them with 2 oxygens. If you understand the plasma condition, is bringing, releasing energy, and connecting as you like in 6 channels. But if you work in a plasma, it allows you a disconnection at a given point, which is connecting to everything. It's a multi-purpose switch. So, now you understand how you create the CO2 for the first time, since you've been building all these CO2 kits. And if you have by accident did not pay for Avon or any branded name which is very good with no calcium, and you get your connection right, you get CO2. But if by accident you use the tap water, especially from Fukushima, is full of calcium, this is what you're going to get. CaCO3. And then, if you get your connection wrong, then you have a zinc oxidization too. Because now you see how you develop your lifestyle. And as part of interconnection of the carbon, it's what I call chameleon style of life. It connects to the other carbon because you already had the structure connection with. And as we saw in the upper layer of the atmosphere, how they are connected, how they are created out of each other, it brings itself the friends too. And then by connecting this carbon with this carbon of the other structure, they get the stock. And now they become your amino acid. In a way, one leg of the amino acid is sitting with the carbon you have in the water. Every single CO2 has a brother sitting on the top because he brought it in. It's very strange, but this is how it works. Because the carbon, for its contact connection, exists in twinity. You don't find single plasma gas of carbon. That's why sometimes it behaves as a conductor, sometimes behaves as a resistor. So every CO2 you have here, you have amino acid connection as against somewhere with it. But because of the orientation and the gravitational magnetic field of the salt and the water, these guys become flat. It's like they come, in a way, it's the wrong way to put it, but in a way, it's the right way to put it. These four plasmas, in the speed they come together, they pulled by the field strength of the carbon in the center magnetic field, they hit as a ball a flat surface, and they splash, they go flat. They become flat amino acids. That's why when you look on top of your water, you see flat structure. Understand the process. Never I have ever explained this before. In all the teachings, we say it creates a magnetic field of the CO2, so it absorbs. This is the exact process how you get absorbed. And this is the reason for it. That's why I chose two materials to have the gravitational magnetic field of plasma of a 6, of a carbon structure. I don't go for 12. This is what you think. Carbon is 12. Why is he looking for 6? I got you. Because you got to remember, not at any point you create single plasma of anything. You create number of plasmatic conditions. You create thousands of these, but in atomic, the structure mass of a plasma. So, you see, if you do your work a little bit good, you know how to bring everything home. The difference between you and me is I'm not only a nuclear physicist, I know nuclear plasma the same. I know the gaps, I know the connections. I know where the plasma has weak structure and where you build a structure. The carbon is 12. I need half of it, because once I establish more than 50% of the fields, I'm in charge. Go back to what I explained to you, but you didn't understand, even in past few days. When you get an amino acid in, like MS, and you go paralyzed, when 50% of the fibers of the muscle plus are disconnected, the movement stops. In the world of plasma, in the world of plasma technology, you look at any of the 50%. If you can lock into the protons, as you call it, it's 50%. You capture. You understand? When you have a carbon 12, it's 6 proton and 6 neutron. If you can create a condition of the gravitational magnetic field of 6 neutron, you got it in the pocket. If you understand this, you understand how to create gravitation or magnetical field towards the point of destination. You create neutron weight, magnetical, gravitational. You pull the copper in, the rest follows. What we say, there's an old say, is the last straw which breaks the back of the camel. You can keep on loading your camel, he stands up. You put one straw, goes one way. The camel goes down. This is playing with what you want to play. Always remember what we talked about yesterday. Gravitational neutrons. What do you do? When you can gravitate, you can pull. In this process, just don't look. Understand the application and implication, not only in the leaf, not only in the pot, your mass gravitational, but in your space technology, in transfer of energy. I want energy from you. I increase this. I want to download. I make it weaker. That the other point gravitational magnetic field of the other carbon pulls. This is the plasma technology, not a physics, maths, mechanical, biological, chemistry. Plasma works one way, under one rule. You have to understand this interaction. You understand? So, you don't need to create a pool, understand how you can use the beauty of the fields which are available to you. I play the game because I know how. To you, it looks strange. And because you don't understand, like a sheep to a slaughterhouse, you follow. You see a gas CO2, you're happy with it. But now, as I said, we go into details. Understand. Why?